Shalom and good evening. I'm Jonathan Hessen, and this is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. In today's top stories, after 460 days, the IDF recovered the bodies of an Israeli father of 18 and his son from Hamas captivity. The United Nations bashes Israel over its defensive military actions in Syria. The U.S. Military Central Command, alongside British Royal Air Force, conduct aerial strikes against the Iranian proxy Ansar Allah in Yemen. During ongoing operational activity in the southern Gaza Strip yesterday, the IDF recovered the bodies of 2 Israeli hostages from a tunnel in the border town of Rafah. One of the bodies was positively identified as Yusuf Ziadne, a 53-year-old Israeli from the Bedouin town of Rahat, who was a father of 18 children. And the second body was presumed to be that of his 22-year-old son, Hamza, who is one of Yusuf's 3 children who was kidnapped by the Islamist Hamas terror group on the 7th of October from Kibbutz Chulit. Hamza's younger siblings were released in a hostage deal in November of 2023. Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, daily protests are taking place by Israelis calling for an immediate release of the hostages, in hopes that adding additional pressure on Jerusalem's leadership will expedite a deal, despite Hamas's unwillingness to compromise.
A year ago, the 5 photos of the 5 young women was published in the Daily Mail, and a year after, they are still there. We are all here together to demand a deal now. There is a deal on the table. There is a negotiation. The government must sign the deal. They must come home. They must come back. They've been there for more than 400 days. It's devastating to see them. Liri Elbag, just this Saturday, we saw her voice. All of us were devastated. They can't stay there. They have to come back home now.
I have to be optimistic because maybe President Trump's election will get will jolt the system in a way, because for the past 15 months everything was stuck. So maybe him coming to power will get the balance of power differently, so we will have advancement in the stock. I'm optimistic, of course, I have to be optimistic.
It is important to highlight that U.S. supervised negotiations are ongoing in the Qatari capital of Doha.
The efforts are ongoing. The technical meetings are still happening between both sides. There are no principal meetings taking place at the moment. These meetings, there are a lot of issues that are being discussed. I can't get into the details. I don't think it's useful, helpful, or possible to provide any timeline on an agreement taking place.
During a visit to Paris, outgoing U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held a final meeting with his French counterpart, insisting that a deal ensuring hostage release and a temporary ceasefire in the Gaza Strip could be imminent.
We're very close to a ceasefire and hostage agreement. We've talked about this too in recent days. I hope that we can get it over the line in the time that we have left. But if we don't, then the plan that President Biden put forward for a ceasefire hostage deal will be handed over to the incoming administration. And I believe that when we get that deal, and we'll get it, it'll be on the basis of the plan that President Biden put before the world back in May.
Washington's outgoing Secretary of State further addressed the state of the fragile cessation of hostilities between Israel and the Lebanese-Iranian proxy, Hezbollah.
And we've seen as recently as yesterday now the withdrawal of about more than a third of Israeli forces in Lebanon. I think the ceasefire can be a bridge to a durable peace that allows people on both sides of the border, Israel and Lebanon, to return to their homes, to return to their lives, and to move forward in greater peace and security.
Turning to the United Nations headquarters in New York, where the UN Security Council held a session on Syria, during the course of which the world body's special envoy for the war-ridden country seized the global stage to condemn Israel's defensive measures, labeling Jerusalem's military presence on Syrian soil as deeply concerning.
We are deeply concerned by continued Israeli military presence and activity, including beyond the area of separation in violation of the 1974 disengagement agreement. Furthermore, restrictions on UNDOF's freedom of movement imposed by IDF should be lifted without delay. Attacks on Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity must stop. Reports of the IDF using live ammunition against civilians, displacement and destruction of civilian infrastructure are also very worrying. Such violations, along with Israeli airstrikes in other parts of Syria, reported even last week in Aleppo, could further jeopardize the prospects for an orderly political transition.
Garrett Pedersen went on to voice his appreciation for the Biden administration's decision to temporarily ease a portion of its sanctions on Damascus. Nevertheless, the UN Special Envoy of Syria insisted that more must be done, including the removal of a terror designation on al-Qaeda and Islamic State figures who've seized control of Damascus.
I welcome the recent issuance of a new temporary general license by the United States government, but much more significant work in fully addressing sanctions and designations will inevitably be necessary.
The U.S. Deputy Ambassador to the United Nations, Dorothy Shea, stressed that while the Biden administration welcomes positive statements emerging from the al-Qaeda-affiliated Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the United States looks for progress in actions, not words.
Colleagues, the United States welcomes positive messages from Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, but will ultimately look for progress in actions, not words.
It is crucial to note that the incoming Trump administration does not hold the same views as the outgoing Biden administration vis-a-vis the al-Qaeda affiliate Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Turning to Tehran, where Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian hosted Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani, during the course of which the latter voiced Baghdad's hope for stability in Syria and offered Iraq's assistance in achieving that goal.
بأن استقرار سوريا هو مفتاح استقرار المنطقة بأكملها. لذلك ندعو إلى حل سياسي شامل يحفظ سيادة سوريا ووحدة أراضيها ويضع حداً للتدخلات الخارجية التي تضر بمصالح الشعب السوري. كما أعربنا عن استعداد العراق للتعاون مع جميع الأطراف لتعزيز الاستقرار في سوريا والمساهمة في تحقيق انتقالة سلمية سلسة لنظام يعكس إرادة الشعب السوري بكل تنوعاته وأطيافه وفي عملية إعادة الإعمار وضمان عودة اللاجئين.
While Iraq makes every effort to de-escalate the regional tensions for fear of its own fate, the Islamic Republic of Iran is working tirelessly to try and convince its regional and global adversaries and its allies that it remains strong. These efforts include successive military exercises and an attempt to display some of its domestically produced defense capabilities.
نیاز بود که یک بار دیگه توانایی‌های دفاعی پدافند هوایی خودمون رو در یک میدان نزدیک به واقعیت آزمایش کنیم.
Meanwhile, in Yemen, U.S. Central Command, in collaboration with the British Royal Air Force, conduct aerial strikes against the Iranian proxy Ansar Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe in Yemen.
U.S. Central Command forces conducted multiple precision strikes against two Iranian-backed Houthi underground advanced conventional weapons storage facilities within Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen. The Houthis used these facilities to conduct attacks against U.S. Navy ships and merchant vessels in the southern Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. The strikes are part of CENTCOM's efforts to degrade these Iranian-backed Houthi attempts to threaten regional partners and military and commercial vessels in the region.
The Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh was further asked whether there was a change in policy vis-a-vis the Iranian proxy in Yemen after some 15 months of a relatively lax aerial campaign against the Houthis.
So when it comes to the Houthis, I mean, nothing's changed about Operation Prosperity Guardian. That still remains intact and is there to continue to degrade Houthi capabilities, but also to protect commercial shipping and our ships and other allied ships and coalition ships that go through the Red Sea and the BAM. When it comes to our policy on the Houthis, I mean, we never said we were going to take every capability off the map. What we did say is we're going to continue to work to degrade capabilities and to ensure, upholding the international rules-based order and the free flow of commerce through that region. We continue to be successful in our strikes. Again, we're not going to be able to take off the map every single capability, but every single time that we conduct a dynamic strike or do the strikes that you saw CENTCOM announce earlier this morning, that further degrades their capabilities and takes things off the map that they can use against commercial ships or our own Navy ships.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. First, I would like to encourage you to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Separately, since TV7 Israel is exclusively donation-based, we'd also like to encourage you to support our programs as we continue to produce content that truly matters. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom from Jerusalem.
نحن نرى بأن استقرار سوريا هو مفتاح استقرار.
We believe that the stability of Syria is the key to the stability of the entire region. Therefore, we call for a comprehensive political solution that preserves Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity and puts an end to foreign interventions that harm the interests of the Syrian people. We also expressed Iraq's readiness to cooperate with all parties to enhance stability in Syria and contribute to achieving a smooth, peaceful transition to a regime that reflects the will of the Syrian people, with all their diversity and spectrums, and in the reconstruction process and ensuring the return of refugees.
نیاز بود که یک بار دیگه توانایی‌های دفاعی پدافند هوایی خودمون رو در یک میدان نزدیک به واقعیت آزمایش کنیم.